So here it is, the all-new Leica SL100 of 400 f5 to 6.3 for the L mount. Check out these sample images. As we saw for the sample images and video right there, this is an impressive lens and it's different in terms of performance than the Sigma. I know a lot of you are thinking that, and we're going to talk about that in just a bit. Before we do though, I do want to give a special shout out to my friend KC Eng, who is a Leica ambassador here in Singapore. You saw him on my Leica M6 videos in Whistler, and he was at the zoo with me today testing out this lens. We both were testing it out on the SL2 and SL2S Reporter, and both came away really impressed by it, and you're going to hear from him later on in the video. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. Is this a Sigma lens in Leica metal housing? Not necessarily. Now, Leica has not said if this is made by Sigma or not. They say it's made in Japan. And if you look at the specs, specs for specs, the groups and elements are very similar to each other, okay? But that's where I think it kind of ends, because no matter who makes this lens, Leica is going to dictate the performance, the optics, the build quality. This is going to be their design in a lot of ways. It's sharper, especially from 100 on up, minimal to zero chromatic aberration, minimal flaring. You're not going to get great sun stars at f16, but okay. I don't think you're shooting for sun stars when you have a lens like this. You want reach, you want to have nice depth of field when you're shooting your subjects, if it's wildlife like we did at the Singapore Zoo, or if it's sports or whatever it may be, but you're going to get some really good flaring control, which I think is important, especially if you are shooting in stadiums and you're worried about lights coming in. This will alleviate a lot of that. And again, I rarely saw any chromatic aberration, and I was looking at images all evening as I'm editing this video, because we just got the lens this afternoon, as a matter of fact. So you're seeing it announced today. I'm getting the video out as soon as possible, so it's kind of a first impressions review on this, but you get the gist of how this lens will perform. Now, in terms of the autofocusing speed on it, it is fast. This has great eye tracking performance on it, no issues at all. We tried it on people, myself, for example. Casey took a photo of me, locked on the eye, no issues at all. We tried it on animals at the zoo, subject tracking worked great. We also did normal tracking, spot. We tried all various different focusing methods. Everything locked on relatively well. Now, again, this is a contrast-based system, so you will see some hiccups with contrast-based systems over phase detect, but for the most part, we got the shots that we wanted. If I could get a shot of a tiger jumping out of the water, grabbing food, I'm happy. I'm happy, okay? So everything is good. Not a scientific test, but you get what I'm saying. Outside of that, the build quality really impressed me on this. The weight of it, 1,530 grams, a little bit heavier than the Sigma, but it's lighter than the 90 to 280, which it does resemble. If you look at the design element of this lens, it really looks like the 90 to 280, but not as long and not as heavy. Metal hood on this as well. This lens is just built beautifully. Arca Swiss mounting on the tripod foot, which you can remove. You can slide it off. And it does have a lock on it, so you just have to kind of push down and kind of remove it. And then also you have a rotatable tripod ring, which does stop at every 45 degrees. You cannot remove the ring. It's built into the lens, but there's no issues with that whatsoever. Also, it has image stabilization inside of it. So you are going to get some good stabilization with this lens, and that definitely does help, especially if you're going to be using the 1.4 teleconverter. Let's talk about that right now. This teleconverter comes in at 900 euro. The lens is 2,200 euro. This comes in at 900 euro. You are getting 7 elements in 4 groups. You're getting a lot of glass in this bad boy. Again, Leica's behind the design on this, the optics, to make sure that your performance with a teleconverter or not is almost the same. I'm editing images here. I could not tell what I was shooting with a teleconverter or not, minus how close I was to the subject, okay? So if you're worried about that, do not be. You're paying premium for a teleconverter, but you're getting really good optics. So are there any cons to this lens? Well, I guess you could say the variable aperture. I mean, f5-6.3, then when you throw on the 1.4 teleconverter, you're going to go to f9. So if you're going to be shooting in lower light situations, and we tried it, you are going to struggle a little bit. You know what I mean? So yes, the Ibis is pretty good on this, but I think you're going to max out at 1/10 on this lens. And that's what, after that, then you're going to see some camera shake come into play, but that's still relatively good. But if you are going to shoot in low light situations, then I would recommend getting some noise reduction software like Topaz Denoise or whatever to help you out. But outside of that, I think this lens is fantastic. Anyway, let's go to our final thoughts, and Casey will give his thoughts on this lens right now.
All right, so we're just wrapped up at the zoo. Final thoughts, Casey, what do you think?
I think the lens is great, and I especially love it when I shoot against light.
Yeah.
It was wonderful, and it renders light and flare very nicely. It doesn't have that starburst that you see very obviously. It renders like what your eyes see when you look against the light, and it's beautiful. Yeah, even with close down to f16, it has very minimal vignetting, very minimum fringing. It's very well controlled. Do you feel the autofocus is okay?
Autofocus is pretty good, actually, I have to say. I mean, again, we're dealing with contrast-based systems here.
Yes.
But it does lock on relatively fast, and it does stick on. The eye tracking is really good for humans as well.
Yeah, and with the enhanced preview that is on.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's different.
That's a nice little trick you taught me. Is enhanced preview will actually kind of give you better autofocusing.
Yes, correct. It sort of help in that contrast detection.
Yeah.
And then when you have difficult situation, it works. It works just beautifully. But you have to sort of understand how the camera will focus and then manage your operation a bit.
Yeah.
And then that will be great. Yeah.
Okay, there you have it. So that's our first impressions on the 100-400 f5-6.3 from Leica. For you guys out there that are into wildlife, birding, sports, I mean, this can be fantastic. Plus the 1.4 teleconverter is fantastic. Now,
that is a good one.
That is a good one.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Are almost indistinguishable by using the lens natively or with the teleconverter, which is impressive.
Yeah, and if you compare the size, really it's just a bit longer than the 2490. Very minimal there. And it's light.
Yeah.
It's lighter than that.
Yes. You have the 81.4.
Yeah.
The R lens here.
Yeah, and it's much heavier compared to this setup with the grip.
There you go.
Yeah.
Modern optics versus older optics. But there you have it. All right, guys, if you like this video, subscribe to the channel. Also follow KC Eng's Instagram, Facebook page as well. I'll leave that information right there for you guys. Take care, stay safe, and we'll chat to you soon.
Bye-bye.